Hi, my name is John, and today we're going to walk through the card designer for Elysium. Elysium is a no-code AR world-building application, and the card designer is something that we built so that anybody without any 3D modeling experience will be able to create content that they can deploy into augmented reality. So to start, the first thing we do is go to Elysium, alpha.elysium.ar. And once you go to that link, it will take you directly to the card designer. You will be landing on a page such as this. You can click anywhere to start. And here you're presented with several options. You can sign into Elysium if you have an account. You can create an account immediately. If you do, you will walk through a series of steps to be able to sign in. But you don't need to sign in immediately. What you can do is start a new project right off the bat. If you have an existing project, you can actually drag and drop it into this window. We'll walk through that process at the end. So to start a new project, you just click on this button and you give your design a name. So the card designer is meant to be a templating system. What that means is that you can create cards that can be reused and modified to create multiple iterations of the same card. So what we can name a project is basically the larger project. And the idea is that within a larger project, you can create multiple cards. So let's call this, the world, right? And then we have two different types of cards. Basically, we have an asset card, which is kind of like a playing card. Think of this as your tarot card or your magic card or a profile card. Loyalty cards are kind of the form factor for things like a credit card or a discount card. And if you choose one or the other, they will have different properties. But to start off with, we'll just go with the AR card. And then you have to give that unique card a unique title. So we'll call it new card. And we can give it a description. Collection. There we go. So click that. You're going to be presented a summary of all the stuff that you've entered. And if that looks correct, you can click next. If not, you can go back and just navigate back to the place that you want to edit. And if so, you'll be prompted to ask to sign up. And this is just signing up to our newsletter so that you'll have access to the latest features and also the latest tools that we'll be creating and we'll be launching in the next 6 months. So I'm going to create my name. You can tell us what we're going to be building. So I'm going to be a personal project. I can sign up. And it seems like I'm already signed up to the newsletter. So that's great. So I can just go ahead and start creating. So this is a blank card. And this is the interface that we have set up for building this card. So if you drag and drop, this is a 3D environment so that you can navigate your card. The first thing you'll need to do is edit the card details. So you can pick two different fonts. You can pick a primary font and a secondary font. These are all options. You don't have to do this. But if you do, you can pick from a series of fonts. And as you see, it'll change the title font there. You can pick a secondary font, and let's just pick Josephine Sanz. It doesn't really matter. These are all custom options that you can choose. The second section that you can look at is the canvas. The canvas is basically the 3D environment in which you'll be actually creating things. So you can pick a solid color, and as you see, it's just a colored background. We can add a gradient, right? So you can change what colors are in the gradient and all that. Below this, you have actually size for moving this. So if we zoom out a little bit, you can actually see that we're going to change the background size, and this is a way for you to compose how you want it to look. Because in this 3D designer, you'll be able to take photos to be able to show off your work in a sense. Also, when you share your 3D card online with share links and whatnot, it will be rendered with this canvas setting. So the other thing you can do is pick an image. So we can pick an image from here. We'll go to our folder that we've set up for this. Sorry, not 3D designer, card designer. So we can pick, I don't know, like this monkey with an iPhone, right? And so that just basically renders an image behind it and makes it a backdrop for your card design. You can also pick an HDRI, which has we have a few presets here. And these HDRIs, if you don't know, are basically a 360 image. So what it does is it simulates being in a 3D environment. And so you can see this one is actually pretty low res, but the intention here is to provide real world lighting, and simulate real world lighting. So in this forest scene, the idea is that when we create a card, the card will reflect the lighting and the background, if it's shiny, in the same way that it might in the real world. So for now, let's just leave this at, let's do the sunset. So this is a scene, I don't know where this is, but it's a scene at on the beach somewhere, or not a beach, but a waterfront. Okay. Underneath this, you'll notice that there's a rotation setting. So this is just a way that you can rotate the background. And this is specific to this setting as an HDRI. You can also have it as transparent, which means there's no background whatsoever, right? And if you want to upload a custom HDRI, which you can source from different locations, you can drag and drop that here. The same settings apply. Okay, so that's just setting up our work environment. Now the next step is our card images. So as a card, you have the front and a back. So our system allows you to create, add images on front and back of the card. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to this, my collection here. So we're going to pick one image. It doesn't really matter. Oh, hang on. What's the wrong one. Card designer tutorial. Okay. So I go to this. I'm just going to resize this a sec. Right, so if we go to the tutorial, I can pick this image to put in the front face, back face. Front foreground is something we'll go over next, but we'll put it on the front face for now, right? And so this applies to the card immediately on what we call the front face. The back face is still empty, so what we're going to do is we're going to put something on that now. So you just go and pick a different image. Let's pick this one, for example. So this is an interesting example because this image is actually isn't in the portrait setting. It's a landscape. So it's what the system will do is that it will match it to that orientation, and it will just scale it such that it covers the entire back face of the card. So now we have a card that has images on the front and the back. And the last thing we're going to do now is that we can add additional images that make the that allow us to set a front foreground image. So this right now, what we've done is we set the background images. We can now add a front foreground image. So you can either add this on the side here, right, over front foreground image or background logo. These are things that would sit on top of the backgrounds, the front face or the back face. So for this, let's see if we can find the right one here. Okay, so let's just pick Oscar for now. So the benefit of this is that our system supports all types of images, and including images that have alpha. So we're going to put this in the front foreground, and we're going to flip to the front. And now you see that Oscar is placed on top of this. He's automatically scaled to that size, but you can change the scaling of all of these images, right? So if I wanted to change the scale, I just go to this little toggle here. I can drag the value down to something like this. And then I can position him however I want, right? So this might be an artifact based on the how this PNG is created. So if we add another one where the alpha is on the outside, you would not see these lines. So you can use these toggles to position him however you like. So we'll just put him like on the side here, right? And then also we have the option for a brand logo. So a brand logo is something that goes over the title. It goes on the top left, and we can add something here as well. So we'll just go here, we'll go to desktop, And I believe there's Elysium. So we're going to use SVG in this case. So now that you see the Elysium logo is placed there, and once again I can scale it. And you'll notice in the interface as well that there are these eyeballs. So you can toggle whether or not these things appear by clicking on the eyeballs themselves. All right, last thing on the card, backgrounds is the color. So we've set something up where you can apply a color on top of the background images. So this allows you to create like an interesting effect and a tint to the images. This can be applied, as a as a custom feature, right? So we can do that, and let's make this a little bit darker, maybe a little bit lighter like that. So you can pick the colors you want, and then you can adjust the opacity, right? So if you make it 100%, all you're going to see is the color. But you can pick and choose your opacity right now, and and then also go ahead and change the angle of this. So by changing the angle, you're actually rotating the gradient itself, right? So we can do something like this, okay? And that sets the same thing for both front and back. Now you have the option of doing separate colors for each front and back face by unclicking this link, and then you'll see that the back face gradient has the same interface, and you can change the color. It can be separate colors. For example, if we do green and orange, right? You'll see that it's a different color on top of that, right? So if we go to 100%, that's what the color looks like. And likewise, we can change the angle separately. All right. Okay, so let's leave it at that. Let's turn down the opacity a little bit. There we go. Okay, so that's all about the main images. Finally, you have what we call content. Content is the section that has specific things, the specific types of cards. So as you see right now, we have what we call the asset card. If I want to swap that initial setting, we can switch to a loyalty card. You'll see that it has different, a different set of conditions, but it's still using the same images, right? So if we swip back, we're going to go back to the settings that we already had. So we're going to continue with the asset card. The loyalty card is something we can go over on a separate feature, a separate tutorial. The key thing to remember for this now is that the content section is the section that has the unique fields that are unique to each of these cards. So for the AR card, the intention behind the AR card, the way that we're using it, is to create collections of cards. So you might have a ID and then a series. So we can call this ID as like card 001, right? And then the series might be like New World. Right, so that idea is that you might have a series, and in that series you might have a number of cards, and these cards can be numbered in that certain way. We have fields that are not being printed on the card, but are used for our own metadata, or for when you want to create worlds, is that you can use a collection. So the idea is that you have a card in series. You might have, say, like in a standard playing deck, you have 52 cards, right? So you might have card 1, 2, 3, all the way to 52. And then the edition size means how many sets of these cards are available in your account. These are things that are probably unaffecting. These are things that are a little bit more advanced and really apply to the way that we'll be using the cards in our gamification. But for you, it won't be something that you'll be really using at this point. But what you will be using is the ability to add text, right? So what you can do is, you'll see here you have HTML front, HTML back, secondary HTML front, secondary HTML back. So these are all just text that you can add to the card itself. So when you do, you see this text editor, and you can choose which font you'll be using. So for this one, let's use something a little bit different. We'll use this font here, and then we'll be entering some text. So it's like, right? It's not showing up here because this is actually on the front face, and what we're seeing here is the back face. So we just got to come here, switch that out, and you'll see now the text is being rendered, and it's all kind of mushed up together because this is where everything is rendered, on top of each other. So remember, if we have the ability, we can actually change the size of the card name, right? So if you're not using a logo, you can just have the card name. But if you're, in our case, where we're using a logo, we can actually decide to hide this, right? The little T icon here is a toggle for whether or not you're using the primary font that has been set for the project. So you can choose it to use the default kind of generic font, or apply the font that we had set as the primary font. So for this, we're just going to actually remove the card title. And now that we've entered some text, we can change the font size. We'll make this a little bit bigger. We can change the line height to make, change what the text looks like. And then on top of that, we can change how wide the text is inside the card. So we're going to put this here because we're going to then move this to show up next to Oscar. So we're going to move it to the Y that way and then move it down like this, right? So we have Elysium, which is the brand, New World, which is the series, and then if we flip to the back, the card number is indicated in the bottom here, right? And these are all things, once again, that you can just toggle on and off as you like. So these are things that you don't have to enter, but if you have entered, you can toggle on and off at some point. So we've entered the primary text. We'll add a secondary text, right? So we're going to tap on here, and we'll just use a different font this time. We'll use Montserrat, and say is additional, right? So you see that's rendered by default at the top of the page, but that's okay because what we're going to do is we're going to make it a little bit smaller, right? And then we're going to make it such that the width again is smaller, so it wraps. And then what we're going to do is we're going to reposition this again. So we're going to move this, drag this number field, and we're going to put this underneath like that. So on each card face, you'll have options to put different, basically two blocks of text. And within this, you can also change the color of the text and change it to make it bold. So we can make this, for example, select this, make that actual text bold and italic, right? Underline that. We can make the rest of the text a different color, for example, make this red, right? So these are all options, and this is just an HTML editor that you can choose and change as you like, right? There we go. So that's a way to customize the text within the card. The last thing we're going to add here is visually are what we call stickers. And you can have up to 8 stickers, and you can place them on the front or the back of the card. If you go to this link, stickping.com, it's a library of free stickers that you can use. You can download them, and then this is a way that you can add that here. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a sticker. We're going to open this up. I'm going to call this bacon, right? And what I've done is I've actually created, downloaded something already. Card designer tutorial. So I have actually downloaded a bacon, sticker, PNG. So, a sticker can have a transparent background. It doesn't have to. It can be just a regular image. It's just an image that we put on top of everything else that's been rendered on the card so far. So we're going to put this and drag this into the scene. So I can either drag and drop directly into this location, right? I think it's, hang on. So add it as a sticker, right? And as you see, the bacon is added directly. Actually, so I've created a new one. So I can change this name to bacon, right? And I can, once again, scale it, position it how I want, and rotate. This one is unique. Stickers are unique because we have a rotation that we can add to it, right? And I'm going to position this off to the side above Oscar a little bit, right? Like that, right? So you can just have fun and add these stickers to the card at any point. We can come back here and do the same thing. And if I drag and drop that again, it can be a second piece of bacon that shows up, right? Bacon 2. And you'll see that it's not showing up here, but that's because right now it's set to the front. So we just got to switch it to the back. And the same thing, we can make it small, big, rotate it, right? And then position it however we want. There we go. So you can have fun with these cards. And the thing is, to keep in mind, once again, is that the stickers stack on top of things on the card. And additionally, you can have stickers that stack on top of each other, right? So the idea here is if I add, say, if I add another sticker, right? This time we'll just pick any kind of number, any kind of image, right? So let's just pick this cat, right? And I'm going to put it on the back. Cat, right? Scale them like this and move them. Oh, I'm going to set that to 0. And then I'm just going to move them over here and put them on top of the sticker. But what you're seeing is that the sticker, the cat, is actually going behind the bacon, right? And that's simply because stickers stack on top of each other. So if you want to change the order of things, right, you just kind of put that above, right? So you can actually have a lot of fun moving these stickers around so that they render properly. So we can put that like that, and once again, we'll move the cat up a little bit. There we go. Okay, so on a card, you can have up to 8 stickers, and you can just place them however you like. So this is an additional visual element that you can add to these cards. Card buttons are action buttons, and this is once again specific to the way that we'll be using cards in our system. This is not something you need to worry about at this point. The last fun thing that we can do is add some audio, right? So the audio has no actual effect on the card itself, but then allows us to add some music to the background of the experience. So if I add this, for example, I can preview what the audio is, right? And what it does is that when we preview the card, the audio will automatically play back. So this is something that is kind of fun, because the idea is that once you've created this card, you'll be able to share it with other people with this audio. So if I click on this, the audio will automatically play, and this will be a player so that people can look at your card. They have the same controls as you had before. And then you'll notice that there's also these other control presets that will move the camera to kind of create a nice little video of your card, for example. You'll also have this ability to add a grid to that you can kind of subtly see that shows where the floor of the 3D space is. And last thing you can do is take a picture of this, which will allow you to take a screenshot of the photo of the world as you composed it, right? So there's a couple settings here, and as you see, the showcase setting is that it just shows the front and the back images as the part of the background to the card. Okay, and if you want to get out of this, you can click on this button or press escape. The other way to do this is create a share, and this is a share preview. So this isn't actually a share link, but this is a way for you to kind of see what the experience is like when you do share it with somebody, right? So there's a little message on top that explains that. So we can close that. Go back to this. So now that you've done all of the actual content on the card, the rest of this is actually on the right side are the controls for more or less the experience. So, once again, you can add a finishing to the card. So right now, all cards by default have a flat finish, but you can add a holographic. And this means that it becomes reactive to the lighting in the environment, right? So you'll see how it kind of has like a nice shine to it. You have like reflections. We can change that preset, has a different type of surface. We can add matte, glossy, and frosted. You'll notice that this affects everything except for the text or the stickers themselves, right? So these are, once again, these are material settings, are things that are applied to the card's backgrounds, their images, and the gradients and the colors. Any brand elements, basically anything that you put in the card images section. And you can manually adjust these, and you go beyond the custom settings that the presets that we've made. And these are all just settings that you can do to change the material aspect of the card itself, right? So now it has like a different type of reflection to it. The last part here, the finish and the glow, are materials options that apply to the card as a whole. So all of these other presets up until now are applied only to the background images and the images in the background and of the card itself, whereas the finish is applied to everything else, that's including the stickers in the scene, as you see here, right? So this is kind of an additional finish that you can apply to this the card as a whole. And the same thing for the glow, right? The glow is going to affect the luminosity of a card. So in AR, you want to have a little bit of a glow so that it actually appears the way it should. So you can leave that at the default. The default setting has been tuned so that it works well. And you have the option of actually changing the color of the glow, which kind of changes the look of the card as well. But ideally, you want it to be something that's relatively light in color and maybe give it a bit of a cast. You can do that, right? All right. Okay, the edge is this tiny edge that you see on the card, right? So we can change that from being holographic to metallic to solid. These are just the types of finish that you can have. You can change the color. And then once again, we have a bunch of presets that we've made already, so you can just pick one of the presets. I think by default it goes to platinum. You can change the lighting of the scene, and change how the scene is being rendered. This has no effect on the actual card asset itself. It's just the way it's being displayed on the canvas, right? And then finally, once again, we have canvas effects that allow for the different ways to preview this. You can have a drop shadow. You can have light parallax, which means that as you move the cursor over, it does like a little bit of a move. We can have a float animation, which is kind of the idea that it's kind of moving up and down on its own, which is kind of nice. If not, it just stays static, right? So we'll keep that. And then the last thing is you can add a spin to it. So right now, it moves based on where you're moving the camera, but now the card itself is adding a spin. Now you can set the speed of the spin by setting the speed. And then the delay is like, when it does a single spin, it's going to stop for 1 second, for example. So if we change this to the speed is 5 seconds, it does a whole rotation in 5 seconds, then it stops for 1 second, right? And this, once again, this has nothing to do with the card itself. This animation is not baked into the 3D asset. But it's something at the moment that's being used for display purposes. So this is when you share a link to somebody, this is the animation that they will see, right? The composition, these are the settings that we had before that allowed you to see what, the card, a way to display the card. So these are the presets that we had. So now that we've run through the entire creation aspect of how to build this card. The next thing we're going to do is either save it, share it, export it, or sync it with an Elysium account. So as for the workshop that we're going to be doing, we'll be actually creating, taking this card and placing it in augmented reality, which is some location in the physical world. We'll want to do several things. We want to either save it as a GLB, which is a file format for 3D models. And that's something that you can do from the export button here, right? So you have different resolution settings. I would pick original or optimized. Honestly, there's really very little visual difference on these cards. Keep in mind that in augmented reality, oftentimes you'll be seeing these things on a phone or on a headset. You don't need a very high resolution asset, and it creates a lot more space for actually no return really. So I would just pick optimized, and then you have an option of exporting GLBs or images. So let's export the GLB first. So let's export this. It's going to run through its system. It's going to tell you where to save this. So we'll just save it to my desktop. All right. And what we can do now is we can actually verify this and test the GLB by clicking on this link, which will open this, this new window. And we can find the new card that we just created. We can just drag that in here. And you'll see that this is basically the result. This is the object that we created. It looks a little bit different. Once again, it looks different because right now there is no background in the scene. But should it have a background, and lighting and all that affects it, this will be the way it looks. One thing to note as an AR, in Elysium, for example, we actually support dynamic lighting, which means that wherever you are in the environment, it will pick up the environment lighting and allow it to affect how the card actually looks. So if something is very metallic, Elysium will actually take the real world settings and create reflections on the card or any metallic object that you place. So that's actually super cool. It's actually something that's really interesting, but it has to do with the way the card is rendered. It's not something that's on the card itself. So this is a good way to test whether or not you want the card or the item that you've chosen looks the way you want, right? So keep in mind, once again, this is the optimized version. So this is super compressed. And if we look at the size of this image or this asset, this card, it's a little bit over 1 megabyte, which is absolutely great, right? So we can close this. So that's how we export the card itself. And if we want to turn off the spinning, we can just click on that. So this little button here is what turns on the spin animation. And now we can export images, we can export the card faces, and the resolution of this is also set to what the settings above here, whether they're original, Insanity, which is 4K and whatnot. So for this, we can set the original and we can export the card face. So we can pick the front or the back face. We can export the image, right? We'll save it to the desktop again, and then we'll save it to the back, right? And then we also have an option to export the image scene as a scene. So this allows us to move the camera a little bit, and we're going to export that. And if we look at these images, right? So this is the image that we've just exported. That's the front face, or sorry, so that's the back face. This is the back face, and this is the front face. So they're just basically exporting the work that we've done on the 3D card as single images, and this is something that you can use for posters or something like that. It's an option for you to use on the line, for example, as well. Okay, so now we've actually done all this work. We've exported some of the things that we can extract from the card, but we actually haven't saved the card itself. So what we need to do is go down here and click on Save Project. Right, it's going to ask you to sign up to our Luma, which is another event community. So we can skip that for now. And then you can export this card and save it as what is called an eCard format. Right, so it's going to call it eCard. So the eCard will now serve as a template for this in the project. So if we, for example, if we exit this, we can it will prompt us to either sync it or discard it. Well, we'll discard for now, right? Because we've actually saved the card itself. And if we drag and drop, now the card is being already created. We can just drag and drop this card onto the card designer, and it will load it with everything that we've set up until now. So think of the eCard as a project file for your card. Okay, so we've gotten up to that point. So now we have this object, we've got the GLB, we've got the images, we've got the card itself. What are you going to use it for? So for the purposes, well, that's up to you. You have this card, you can use it for anything you like. Two things that we've designed into the card designer for you is to sync it to your Elysium account. So that's where you click on this and you have to sign in. So we have a test account here. So I'm going to write test and mythologies. And okay, I can sign in. So if you don't have an account, you can create an account at this point. So this is something that you could have done in the very beginning, or we could do now. It doesn't really matter. But once you're signed in, you're signed in. So you can just go ahead and sign in. Oh, maybe I wrote the... Right? And basically it says like, oh, you're creating a new card to sync onto your account. You can save it as a draft or a published. Leave it a draft for now. You can save to Elysium. And it's just going to upload it to the cloud, right? So it's saying that your card file with all of the images, all the text and everything you've created is 21 megabytes as a project. So we're uploading this project to the cloud. And once it's there, we'll be able to kind of do a bunch of new things, which is sharing it with other people. Okay, so now we can continue editing, or we can build a new project, or better yet, we can share this card. So it creates a link. You can copy that link. So now if I open a new tab, I can place that there. And people are going to, whoever you share it with will have this, this prompt is going to ask you for a password to access that. The password is here. So for this, it's whatever. You can copy this directly and then paste it in here and unlock that. So this is actually loading from the cloud save. And as you notice here, it automatically starts playing the music. People can play around with it. We support different languages. And in fact, I just added Italian. So if you wanted to go to a different language, you can do that. So we'll go back to English. Oh, shoot. At some point, we're going to have to make this a drop-down menu. Okay, so a few things here. You can see the world, the project, the card name itself, what kind of card it is. It tells you whether you're not the owner. So right now, because we have created this and we've logged it into our, we've added this to our, we've added this card to our Elysium account. It has tagged us as the owner. I can directly edit this. So if I click on this, it will take me back to the card designer and be able to edit the card. But we don't want to do that. And you have the same control. So you can go, somebody can play around with this and see how it looks. And if you click on the rotate, it will rotate. Basically, the share takes all of the settings that you had for your card as you saved it and displays this. Okay. All right. So we'll continue editing. And so now what that has, so now what you have is a card that you've loaded in your project. So these are all of the projects that now that you're logged in, this is populated, right? And you will see all the projects that you've created on your account. So if I want to switch to a different account, card that I created on my account, right? I can just open that, right? And it gives me a prompt. It's like, hey, would I like to sync my first project first? Sure, I want to sync it. It's going to take a few seconds to do that. And once that completes, it will open up the new card and I can edit that card directly from here. And it's downloading the new card. And this is just another random test that we did, very similar. Okay, so if we want to go back to the new one, the old one, we do the same thing. We just click on that to open. And because we didn't make any changes on this one, we don't have to sync it. It just opens the new one. Okay. The last thing we can do is set sharing. So these create unique share links for this card project. So you can make it private so that you can only view it. If you want to share it, you obviously can't make it private. You have to untoggle private. Make sure that sharing is enabled. You want to be, so collaborator share means that you can invite people to edit the card if you make them collaborators. With that, obviously they would have to create a Elysium account to be able to do that, but the process is pretty much the same. Claiming is a unique feature that where somebody can actually take ownership of the card that you've created. So that is a way to kind of work with other people, perhaps. For us, it's been something that we wanted to add into the gamification aspect of what Elysium proposes. Okay, so for that, we'll just have these set up for now so that you can see what that looks like. And then right now we see that the share link we previously created is here, but we can create a new share link now. So we can create you can have an auto password, you can customize a password, or no password at all. So we'll leave it at that. And we're going to create a new share, right? And same thing, you have a share link now, and you can open this somewhere else. And we can copy the password. So the idea here is that if you want to share this with somebody, you would copy the link and the password, send them an email, and they'll be able to see this just exactly as you would see it here. The only difference is that if I shared it with somebody that doesn't have an account, they wouldn't have the owner tag here. They would have the ability to create an account, or they would have the ability to create an account. And once they're logged in, because we enabled the claim and the collaborator options, they could basically claim the card or become a collaborator on the card and edit it directly. Okay, so close this page. So I believe that is it. The only button that we haven't gone over is this play preview, which is exactly the same interface. It's just another button that shows you the preview share, so that you can see what it would look like for people when you view the card itself. Okay. No, that seemed to be a bug actually. It's playing the wrong thing. There we go. Okay. So that is it. We're going to try to put create chapters for this video so it'll be easier to navigate. It's gone a little bit longer than I expected, but hopefully this is a very thorough tutorial that you guys can follow. And I invite you to go ahead and build these cards. And so that we'll have you'll have your Elysium account set up, and B, we'll be able to to immediately have something that we can use in creating our AR scenes in our workshop. If you have any other questions, feel free to contact me or Mise before the workshop itself. But otherwise, I look forward to talking to everybody in a couple of days. Thank you.